Science of the Soul, Contents of the Gita Summarized, or Sankhya Yoga. We are talking about the soul, and Krishna, I'll just read the meanings. Yesterday we did till 22. I'm going to read it further. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. And we discussed about the two birds on the tree, and we took the shlokas from Mundak Upanishad and Svetasvatara Upanishad, Katha Upanishad. You will also find shlokas from Chandogya Upanishad. Many of the Upanishads which talk about this soul, the talk is the similar thing. There are two birds inside. One is the bird which is eating and enjoying or suffering. The other bird is just a witness. So this bird which is eating and suffering and enjoying is the living entity. The bird which is just a witness is the super soul or the Paramatma. So Atma and Paramatma. Soul, super soul. Atma only lives in this body. Paramatma is in all bodies. Both Atma and Paramatma always existed and will always exist. Now we go to shlok number 23. Nayanam chindanti shastrani, nayanam dahati pavakaha, nayana na chainam kledayanto apo, na shoshyati marutaha. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by wind. In slok number 24, he says, this individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, can neither be burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Text 25. Avyaktoyam achintoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvannam nanu shochitum arhasi. In some of the shlokas you will hear this word, this last, nanum shochitum arhasi. You know, when I read the shloka, the last two words, nanum shochitum arhasi. In 26 also you will see the same thing, shochitum arhasi, shochitum arhasi. It means do not lament. You don't deserve to lament. He's saying, oh Arjun, if you think it is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable, knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. And if however you think, in 26 he says, that the soul or the symptoms will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. One thing I wanted to tell, Atma, when I use the word Atma in Sanskrit, Atma, one meaning is the soul, and this body is also called Atma at many places. This body is also called Atma. So here, using that analytical mind, because we are analyzing, Sankhya Yoga means analysis, logical reasoning, logical way of knowing what is life and what is death. Reasoning. So Krishna is applying the reasoning to him. And he's saying, soul is not going to die, right? Then why are you grieving? One meaning of the Atma is soul. It's not going to die. You know it. You cannot cut it into pieces. You know it. You cannot burn the soul. You know it. You cannot drown the soul. You know it. So if the Atma means soul, then nothing is going to happen to the soul. It's always going to be there. Then why are you grieving? Okay. If you apply the logic, the reasoning, say Atma is this body, then also, what is there to grieve? The body is going to die one day anyways. What is there to grieve? The body is made up of what? The 5 elements. The 5 elements will mix in the 5 elements. Done. What is there to grieve? So he's applying the logic, the reasoning. Still you have no reason to lament, O mighty armed one. Do you not know, Arjun? Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmada parihar yararthe na tvam sochitum arhasi. Again he's saying, na tvam sochitum arhasi. So sochitum arhasi, the Sanskrit word. Do not lament. Why? Don't you know? One who has taken birth is sure to die. And one who has died, after that, he will again take birth. When the cycle is going on, then why should you lament? And under this lamentation, under the pretext of lamentation and grief, why are you avoiding your duty? Just do your duty. Do not lament. For what are you lamenting? Either ways, both the logic is only telling you not to lament. The body which is dying, it is supposed to die. And it will come back. The soul will go and come back with another body. So why are you lamenting? I have given you all the reasons. You don't have to lament. Everybody is going to live forever. They will only change the bodies. Then he goes on saying, 28th shloka, Avyaktidani, Avyaktadini bhutani, Vyakta madhyani bharata, Avyakta nidhanani eva, Tatra ka parivedana. Parivedana means sadness, lamentation. He said, why are you lamenting? All the created beings are unmanifest in the beginning. Then they manifest in their interim state. And unmanifest again after annihilation. So what is the need for lamentation? Now here, he's explaining this because he's saying, these people whom you're seeing so many bodies. One is your guru, one is his uncles, your children, the servants, the fighters. You are seeing your friends, everybody in the battlefield. They manifested for this particular lifetime of yours in some relations. But where were they before and where were you before? It applies to us. Again, I'm saying. When we look at as Arjuna and Duryodhana, they feel like somebody third person. But this is the science of soul. It is for applicable to us. When we are dealing with, especially when we are dealing with situations in our life, and which are with our people around, with whom we have so much attachment, it really helps during that time. I know of a lady. She had just given birth to a kid, 1-year-old kid, baby. And then after that, she got breast cancer. So you can imagine she was very young. She was in her 30s and the kid is just 1 year old. And her husband was very nice. They belong to a Sikh background, Sikh. And in Sikhism, they don't talk about Krishna and all. It's different teachings. I mean, they talk about the formless God. This lady, she got breast cancer after the child was born. And the treatment for breast cancer at that time was to cut off the tumor. That whole breast is cut off. And then she felt, okay, she's okay now. And life is going smoothly. 4 years later, it seems one of the cancer cells was still there. It went into the brain. Now she's going to die. And the doctor had given her only 1 year. Coincidentally, I had gone to a puja and we happened to meet there. And she had so much doubts in her mind because the child is just born, 4-year, 5-year-old kid. How much attachment she had for the child. And now she knows 1 year maximum. She has to go. How to break that attachment? How to feel comfortable? No matter she was reading their Gurbani, everything she's doing. She was going to they have their temple of worship here, Gurudwara. But she was not getting the satisfaction. She's still restless because she's really reading all the Vani. But to get a clear-cut answer, what will happen to the kid? What will happen to the husband? Where am I going to go? What just happened? A young person going through these situations. And then during the discussion, I started talking about Gita. We started, because by that time she was like, she knew that she has to go. So she had taken it up that she wants to go reading the Guru Vani, their book, Guru Granth Sahib. And she was reading the whole day she was only into reading the Guru Granth Sahib. And then she got to meet me and then we discussed about Gita. Same chapter about soul, about where the journey will be. And this sloka especially, where Krishna says, all souls were unmanifest before. Then they became manifest. Then they'll be unmanifested. Then they'll manifest again. I said, just think like that. You were not a mother 5 years ago. This soul just came to you. And now you become mother and now you become attached to it. But now you are caring so much for it. But before, where was this baby of yours? Think like that. Where was this baby of yours? Wherever she was, someone was taking care of. And someone made that arrangement for that soul who has become your baby now. She has manifested in front of you. That soul has manifested in front of you. The husband whom you love so much, where was he? You fell in love with him when you were in college. You met him first time in the college. Where was he before? You were not even aware. You met in the college, certain things you liked. And you fell in love. Now, so he was unmanifested. He was unmanifest for you. Now he's manifested. Now the relation manifested. After you go away, this soul is going to stay for a longer time. You will also, after you go away, your journey on this planet Earth was only this 30 years, 40 years. She was young, 30, probably 30, 32, maybe. Your journey on this planet was only this much. And you are very lucky. Because at the end time, you're reading Guru Granth Sahib. And you know. So this was only your journey. Leave everybody happily. Break your attachments knowingly, happily. And always trust that the same gurus who took care of you before you came, the same gurus will take care of your baby before she became your baby. The same gurus will take care of your husband before he manifested. They took care of him before he manifested. So live like that and break your attachments. Give all the love. Understand the science of soul. She was so happy, so relaxed after that. She read the Gita also later. And later on she left. 2-3 years later, I met the husband also in one of the pujas. The husband said, I feel so grateful. She came in my life for very few years. I was not a person who would ever open the Guru Granth Sahib. But the way she passed away, she just instilled in me something about the Guru Granth Sahib, and I have become a very devout follower. I go to Gurudwara regularly. I want my daughter to be raised up like that. So people come, people go. That is what Bhagavan is saying here. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning. Then they are manifested for some time. And then they are unmanifest again. So what is their need for any type of lamentation? And then Bhagavan says, Ascharyavat pashyati kaschid enam Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah Ascharyavat chainam anya shinoti Shutvapyenam vedana chaiva kaschid. He says, some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing. Some hear about the soul as amazing. While others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all, about the soul. Again, when we read this, I have always told you, contemplate. This is about you. This is not, we are reading theory, but the theory has to be applicable on us. I am the soul. I was unmanifest. Then I manifested. One day again, I am going to become unmanifest. People are looking at it with amazing things. I also look at myself as amazing. So everything that we are learning, apply to us. Okay. Now again, as usual, this purport is very beautiful, and the reason I'm taking it because it has a shloka from Kathopanishad. As I told you, this Gita has a lot of things from other Upanishads also. Since Gita Upanishad is largely based on the principles of the Upanishads, it is not surprising to also find this passage in Katha Upanishad. Shunvanyapi bahubiryo na labhya Shunvanto api bhavoyam na vidyu Ascharyo bhakta kushlosya labdha Ascharyosya jnata kushalan anushishtaha. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, in body of the gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. Men with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful either by a constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in subject matters for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self-understanding, even though it is a fact that without this self-understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. Perhaps they have no idea that one must think of the soul and thus make a solution to the material miseries. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures in good association, but sometimes, owing to ignorance, they are misguided by the acceptance of the super soul and the atomic soul as one without the distinction of magnitude. It is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the super soul and the atomic soul and their respective functions and relationships and all other major and minor details. And it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from the knowledge of the soul and who is able to describe the position of the soul in different aspects. But if somehow or the other one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as Bhagwan. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. So, science of soul, Krishna says, it's very amazing. People can talk about it. People look at it with amazing, they find it very wonderful. But how do you understand the science of soul? By reading the Bhagavad Gita. The only thing, when we read the purport, it said, some people will say, that concept that, okay, I am God. People say, oh, because I am the Atma, I am the soul, so I am God. People say that, right? So I am God. That theory we don't accept. The soul and the super soul is one in quality. But the soul and the super soul are different in quantity. Got it? Quality wise, we have the qualities of Bhagwan. But quantity wise, we are only limited to ourselves. But Bhagwan is unlimited. Got it? So, soul and super soul, one in quality, but different in quantity. Just remember this line. Because if they were one, then Krishna and Arjun would be one. But they are nowhere one. Arjun is Arjun, the Shishya, the disciple. Krishna is Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate Guru. Krishna is Bhagwan. Krishna is Paramatma. Krishna is super soul. Krishna is residing in all bodies. Arjun is a living entity, just like us. Arjun's soul is in Arjun's body. Arjun only knows about himself. So this is what they are saying. So the easiest process to understand The science of soul is to understand Bhagavad Gita from Sri Krishna himself. That is why many a times when I say, sometimes you may have a difference of opinion with the purports here, because other author must have given their way of understanding. They must have interpreted according to their methods. But the shlokas, they are of Krishna's. If you are sincere, you will understand the meaning. And here Prabhupada also mentioned, it requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in previous ones, for before one is able to accept Krishna as Bhagwan. It is true. But you all are lucky. You have definitely done some really great penance, some really great merits you have accumulated. And because not only you, your families, the families where you are born, you will know the answers later from Krishna himself. Because of that accumulation of so much of merit, you are sitting here. Something inspired you to sit and listen to Bhagwan's word. Whether you agreed with Bhagwan or not doesn't matter. You have done that little effort in some life. And that is why Bhagwan is so kind. He's like, okay, come. Now this is your last life. Now you listen. Okay? So, when people come, Lalita devotees, they'll say, oh, Lalita gives moksha. Yes, my Guru says, when Lalita devotee, for Lalita devotee, yes, this is the last life, 100%. After that, they don't need to come. So how can a Lalita devotee be incomplete? He has to be complete. He has to know Gita and he has to go. He has to go with no doubts. There cannot be. For a complete life means all questions solved, all problems solved, all answers given. You are relaxed now. Life is full of bliss from all aspects. So once you have known Gita, done. You know everything. So you have come to the final resting place, Bhagwan's Gita. Now text 30, Bhagwan says, Dehi nityam avadhyoham, dehe sarvasva bharata, tasmat sarvani bhutani, na tvam shochitum arhasi. Again he says, na tvam shochitum arhasi. Do not lament. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in this body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. Considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no other better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. Text 32, O Parth, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. If, however, you do not perform this religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. 34, text 34, people will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death.